On my first day at the new school, I accidentally wore the same outfit as the class beauty. The school bully, Jake, immediately started berating me. You attention-seeking fake. You're not even pretty enough to be copying her style. Without warning, he deliberately poured milk all over my head. While fake apologizing, he cruelly pushed aside my thick bangs that I always kept over my face. When he saw my unusual eye color, he sneered, "Wow, wearing colored contacts to school. Who are you trying to impress?" I stared down at my feet and quietly replied, "They're not contacts. It's a prosthetic eye." Jake froze completely. "What?" he asked, like he couldn't process what I'd just said. His expression shifted from mocking to confused, with something else I couldn't quite read. "What did you just say? If that's not a colored contact in your eye, then what is it?" I sighed. The most dreaded part of transferring schools was happening all over again. Calmly, I pushed Jake's hand away and swept all my milk-soaked hair back, wiped the mess from my face with a tissue, revealing my clean forehead and pale face. I looked directly into Jake's eyes and said, "Watch." Jake frowned, confused by what I was doing. In the next moment, I skillfully lifted my eyelid and, in front of the entire class, removed the prosthetic eye. I held the golden prosthetic eye in front of Jake's now pale face and calmly repeated, "This isn't a colored contact. It's my prosthetic eye. Is that clear enough for you?" The once noisy classroom suddenly fell into complete silence. Jake stared at my empty eye socket for what felt like forever, then stumbled back 2 steps in disbelief. "How is this possible?" he mumbled, instinctively reaching toward my eye socket before I blocked his hand. I quickly reinserted my prosthetic eye, struggling a bit to adjust it properly. I knew I must have looked terrible in that moment, but it didn't matter. I'd been through much worse countless times before. This barely registered anymore. After adjusting my prosthetic eye, I looked up to find Jake staring at me with a complicated expression. "I thought you were..." His lips trembled, seemingly wanting to say something more. Just then, the bell rang for class. Without hesitation, I walked past the frozen Jake and returned to my seat. My hair was still wet and sticky. I silently used tissues to wipe it as best I could. It didn't help much. Everything still felt disgustingly sticky. After using all my tissues, I gave up on cleaning the stains on my clothes and just took out my textbook to prepare for class. Jake stood motionless beside my desk. He watched silently as I tried to clean myself, still clutching the empty milk bottle he'd used to soak me. When he noticed I'd stopped cleaning, his eyes lingered on my half-dry hair. After a long moment, Jake knocked on the desk of Olivia, who sat in front of me. "Give me your tissues," he said hoarsely. Olivia glared at him. "What the heck, Jake? The teacher's about to come in. Go sit down." I said, "Give me your tissues." Jake suddenly raised his voice. "Are you deaf?" The classroom was already quiet as everyone waited for class to start. Jake's outburst drew everyone's attention. Olivia, startled by his tone, bit her lip with tears forming in her eyes. She pulled out a half-used pack of tissues from her drawer and threw them at Jake. "What's wrong with you? Why are you yelling at me?" Jake ignored her and held the tissues out to me. I made no move to take them. His hand just hung there awkwardly in midair. "These are for you. Use them," Jake said, his face tense and his voice frustrated. I slowly looked up and our eyes met. The moment Jake saw my golden iris, he flinched like he'd been pricked by a needle and quickly turned away, deliberately avoiding my gaze. Then he snapped at me. "What are you looking at? Just take them." I belatedly realized that after I'd removed my prosthetic eye, Jake's attitude toward me had completely flipped. Looking at his awkward behavior now, a strange thought crossed my mind. "Is this your way of apologizing?" I asked calmly. At my words, Jake's body instantly stiffened. Even his fingertips trembled slightly, betraying his inner turmoil. "If accepting your tissues means I have to forgive you, then no thanks," I said evenly, meeting Jake's furrowed brow. "I have no intention of accepting your apology, so please take your stuff and stay away from me." As soon as I finished speaking, Jake's expression darkened considerably. Seeing that I wouldn't be persuaded, he stopped trying to explain and simply shoved the tissues into my desk drawer. I immediately threw them on the floor. Jake silently picked them up and tried to give them to me again. Just then, our teacher approached the classroom door with textbooks in hand. Olivia, watching our back and forth with growing irritation, stood up and forcefully pulled Jake's arm toward the back of the room. "She clearly doesn't want anything to do with you. Why are you still trying?" she hissed, deliberately bumping my desk hard as she dragged him away. I kept my eyes forward, not sparing them a glance. Halfway through class, a sharp slapping sound suddenly came from the back row. It was loud enough that several classmates turned around in surprise. Even Olivia in front of me kept looking back at Jake, each time shooting me an accusatory glare, as if I'd done something terrible. I couldn't care less about either Olivia or Jake. I simply ignored them and their little gestures completely. When class finally ended, the sticky feeling on my skin had become unbearable. I stood up to go to the bathroom, but something caught my foot and I fell forward uncontrollably. Despite my quick reflexes to break my fall, my arm still scraped against the floor, leaving several obvious wounds. "Ow," I hissed quietly. Blood was already seeping from my skinned wrist, quickly spreading into a frightening stain on my sleeve. As I tried to get up, someone suddenly pushed through the gathering crowd, wrapped their arms around my waist and legs, and lifted me off the ground in one swift motion. I wasn't prepared at all and instinctively grabbed onto the person's shoulders. "Are you okay?" Jake's voice sounded right by my ear. Seeing my bleeding arm, he immediately frowned. "Don't move. I'm taking you to the nurse's office." "I hurt my arm, not my leg," I said coolly. "Put me down. I can walk." Jake completely ignored what I said, holding tightly to my waist and refusing to let go. "I can carry you." He glanced at me. "Stop trying to act tough."